your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and oh man, I'll tell you what, it is great to have you with us, but even more so, it is great to have a returning guest. Been looking forward to this. I love talking about this subject because it is so important, especially because I'm a guy, okay? Especially because I'm a guy. It is Dave Rossi. Hey, Dave, it is fantastic to have you with us. We're going to get into this, but thank you for coming back again to continue this conversation.
Dr. D, happy to be here and so great to see you as well. Always bringing the energy. Love it.
Oh, and by the way, I think since the last time you and I spoke, my wife and I have moved. We moved to Twin Peaks, California, which is right next to Lake Arrowhead, about 180 miles.
Wow. How's it feel?
Oh, a mile high. No joke. It is literally 5,700 feet higher. Okay.
Wow.
Than sea level. Took me about a week to get used to it. There was a little dizziness. I did not know there was such a thing as altitude sickness.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah. You get tired walking up the stairs.
I got it taken care of. It's all good. No meds. And I am absolutely thrilled. There's an aspect to having moved and owning our own house again since it's been 20 years since we owned our own home.
Wow.
DIY projects. When I just think about them, I get excited.
Well, I'm a contractor. I'm happy to help you. If you have any questions.
Oh my God. Then maybe between you and my brother, he is an electrical engineer. He used to work for Disney and he's got friends as well. I have a deck that is technically on the 3rd floor outside the living room, sliding door, but it slopes because the concrete down below eroded away, not the concrete, but the dirt underneath it. So now we got to find a new way, but we'll talk about that in another time.
Happy to help. We do a lot of nice projects and happy to give you some ideas and help source things for you. Happy to help.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, I need you to help me to source out something right now because we are talking, of course, not only about your book, Alphas Die Early. We are going to talk about masculinity. We're going to talk about toxic masculinity. We'll talk about femininity. We'll talk about the masculine and the feminine balances. Shall we say, from the Chinese yin yang concept and so on and so forth. So I want to start, first of all, with you sharing with us here on the program about, obviously, in addition to what you've just described that you do, how is it that you, and some might say, well, it's a natural that he'd be talking about this stuff. He's a guy. Not necessarily. There are times when I do interviews with women about menopause and postmenopause and other women's issues. Well, I grew up with 4 sisters and a mother, so I kind of, sort of Can you get into that?
Yeah.
This one I can really get into. Tell us about this concept. I like to use the word philosophy within the book. Alphas die early.
Wow, what a great introduction, and congratulations on your move. I I didn't just stumble on masculinity and then all of a sudden just spew about it. I kind of hit reset in my life. We talked about this last time. I lost everything. Lost my house. I divorced my wife of 17 years. I was supposed to have back surgery, and I kind of hit reset on my. Well, I did hit reset on my life, and so I began to read. And you can say philosophy. You can say I use spirituality. You can talk quantum physics. You could talk religion. You could talk a lot of things about masculinity in those genres. And for me, when I hit my collapse and hit reset, I researched and read and experienced and felt and emoted so much to stumble across a consistency of ancient texts like the sutras or the Dhammapada or the Tao Te Ching,
Yeah.
the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, up to new books, from Neville Goddard and Power versus Force with Dr. David Hawkins. And so, Hero's Journey, with Joseph Campbell. And so you're seeing this convergence of all of these different types of people talking about kind of the same thing. And this is not new. And so I'm passionate about helping people. I stumbled on these things. I really want to help people grow and have easy lives.
Mm. You know, I think I shared this with you the last time we were together. It was a slight disappointment for me. I had a men's group in '93 back in Phoenix, and it was just three of us, which actually worked out real well. Our primer, if you will, our handbook was Robert Bly's Iron John.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Learned a lot from that,
I got the
especially
book
that aspect.
for that.
What's that now?
I got that book because of you.
Oh, really? Well, I'm sure John that Bly appreciates that. I tell you, the one thing that really stuck out for me, among other things, was the whole concept of the katabasis, or the bottoming out.
Mm-hmm.
Reaching that lowest of lows, and then you got nowhere else to go but up.
Yeah.
Of course, I hit one of those, but it was after this men's group when I started going through my own divorce, after 15 years.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I met my present wife, and we've been together now, my gosh, almost 30 years, 28 years. We met in 98.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. And here we are now, owning our own home up on a mountain and so forth. But the one thing that struck me about Iron John, and more its author, was the fact that when Robert Bly, came to Santa Barbara to speak, I think it was either at the Granada or Libero, and I had wanted to interview him. I just thought, well, this would be great. And the slight disappointment was, and I didn't throw away his books or anything, was the fact that he refused to do the interview because he didn't want to answer the same old question. So when does a boy become a man, and this and it's like, well, you haven't interviewed with me, pal. So we're going down a road that you hopefully haven't never been down before.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can answer. When you start answering my questions, you go, well, gee, no one's ever asked me that before.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about the various men down through history, and it may only be the recent history, but maybe it goes back further, who have been focused on, I'm going to put it this way, men's health and wellness and well-being, because I am seeing and hearing that our present state of society is actually killing the male of the species because of the expectations that society has, but also the expectations that the man has on himself that he gets from society.
Yeah. Well, that's why the book's called Alphas Die Early, because it is a myth that is not leading to success for men. It is a narrative that people are spinning for money, to make themselves wealthy at the livelihoods of young men. And I completely understand the problem that men are having, predominantly because I had my own problem with that. I have my own problems with masculinity. Masculinity drove a lot of my choices to build my, my empire. I wouldn't say empire, 4 houses and 2 buildings and 2 boats and 3 kids. And, and it collapsed because I made a lot of choices to be a man. I made a lot of choices in my life to live it on the the card of manhood. And it was a lie. Now, what's happening is that we are animals. Men are animals. We're in the animal kingdom. So are women. But the male species, as primates, as mammals, we are predisposed to be the 800-pound gorilla. Darwin talked about this. We want to be the fittest. It's in our DNA to be the fittest. We want to be the peacock with the biggest feathers and the ram with the strongest horns. And that's just in us. We can't not be that. The definition of the fittest in the animal kingdom for rams and birds and gorillas is pretty straightforward. But for us now, it's really confusing. Is it abs? Is it money? Is it own your own company? Is it have a fast car? Is it wear a nice suit? And every time a man tries to engage in the narrative of being told what he needs to do, he looks somewhere else, and that narrative is wrong. Everywhere they look. The Darwinian primate trying to be the survival of the fittest cannot decide what that looks like. And they don't know who and how to behave and how to make choices and what road to go down. And that's where I think the confusion begins.
It's interesting because I remember looking up that quote, the exact quote from his, was it Origin of the Species?
Yeah.
It's either in the preface or the first chapter, whatever, first line.
Survival of the fittest and adaptation to its environments.
Yeah. Am I correct that it actually says survival of the strongest?
Yeah. We mentioned that last time. Yeah. Survival of the strongest, but also it talks about the adaptation of the environment.
Okay.
And that's what we're not doing, is we're not adapting to our environment.
And I guess my question is really coming from this point of view. Is it semantics, strongest versus fittest, or is there a difference?
There's no difference. It's the fact that it's innate in a male to dominate, to perform, and to win the girl and to beat out other males. That's just how it is. That's what we do.
Okay.
And peacocks puff up their feathers. And what's happening is that we as men in this society circle and color our feathers in to show this beautiful plume, pick me, and then we look at someone else who's winning and we think, hey, our feathers aren't the right color. We changed colors. And we're asking people to pick us based on our feathers and not us as the bird. And I think when I tie in psychology and Nietzsche and Hawkins and Einstein and all these things, what it really comes down to is that as a man, we have to have the power of choice. We have to not let, you don't have to do anything. If you want to drive your life towards the goals you want to have, you need to be able to make really difficult choices and have the power to make choices over your mask, your persona, your identity, and your masculinity. You got to stop worrying about what people tell you as a real man and start advocating for yourself and your goals, not the narrative.
This sounds a little strange for coming from me, although not so much if those of you who've been listening or watching have heard me from time to time get a little choked up. I'm not kidding you. I don't know why, but there's something like right about here that just wants to come out.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I grew up with 4 sisters and I grew up with one brother and a mother and a father. So in one sense, my father and brother and I were outnumbered. However, my sisters were there for us. I have a sister who's still alive. My elder sister, she is the second oldest daughter, and we're very close. She's 67, I think. We're only 2 years apart.
Yeah.
And then I have a brother who's 2 years younger. But she and we talk a lot. And sometimes she calls me on my stuff. I remember talking to her about our dad and the memorial, and I made a comment about I can't remember what, but she didn't like it. Oh, she don't say that. Da, 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 da. And it was immediately I'm going, oh, okay. Now I understand. And I backed off on that. And I tried to find another way of phrasing it so that she understood where I was coming from without her putting up the shield of protection in terms of somebody speaking disparagingly, which I was not, of my own father. Come on, I wouldn't do that. I mean, it's just not in me. But the lessons that we learn from the males in our life, I want to ask you a little bit about that in terms of um, what is it? Oh, there's that song from, I think it's the 60s, about how children must be carefully taught.
Mm.
All right. And when you see certain adults acting and behaving in a particular manner, I won't define what, you can probably attribute their behavior to their parents primarily, because kids don't grow up necessarily, although we'd like to think that the kindness gene is there in the DNA, that information, as opposed to the bully in the DNA. It seems to me that those kinds of things have to be taught. They have to be, some would say, programmed. What is your observation through history of males, the man, as we're talking here today, and his evolution? Have we even evolved? Are we outside the cave yet?
No, you mean the proverbial cave that Plato talked about? No, I think some of us are and some of us aren't, and I think the definition is really best said by Carl Jung. It's called individuation or identity dissolution. Our composition, the duality of Homo sapiens, is that we are animals that gathered cognition. So if you're a dog and you're out there and all of a sudden you obtain this massive intelligence and have cognition, you're going to start using this incredible power for survival. As humans, we could say things like, and this came from the book Sapiens, it's an anatomy of the Homo sapien, we could yell danger. But once we got cognition, we could yell danger and there not be danger. We could lie. We can imagine reality. And so if we wanted to steal everybody's food, we could say danger, tiger on the river, and everybody would run and then we'd take all their food. So our cognition began to be used on the analytic side of our body. Our duality is that our animal side steals cognition and acts and behaves for survival as our primary driver for choices. And I'll tell you an interesting thing. I saw this about this supplement, glutathione. Ever heard of glutathione? It's an antioxidant, and you drink it. Well, if your liver needs glutathione and your brain needs glutathione, guess what's getting it first? Your liver. Because survival is more important than cognition. It's a higher order of requirement. So when you are faced with being primal and mammalian to survive, or higher levels of consciousness and cognition, your body's going to choose survival. And Jung says this very well with respect to your identity. We created an identity. Our animal side took cognition, created an ego, it created a persona, and it created this to be in front of us. It created the peacock feathers in front of us to protect the way we were programmed, our deepest wounds. Now imagine, Four Sisters, your burrow, so to speak, and what you were raised with had a lot of female energy, and that affected the way you view women, the way you view men, the way you view nurturing, the way you view the natural traits of a female. And so if you have wounds or traumas or pains or fears that occurred when you were a baby, which we all do, we all build a persona to protect those. This persona is also masculinity. To adhere to the her mentality, to meet the standard of our society, is this portrayal that we build, and it's a facade. And that drives our choices. The biggest choice you need to make is what you believe in. The toughest choice you need to make is take inventory of your beliefs and change them as you need to steer yourself to a better life. And a lot of this is very religious. This is, to me, a sin is when your body and your ego act on behalf of you, not your true soul, not your true spirit. There's a Bible quote, it's forgive them for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
That is an automatic programming response. And people do not understand to the extent that this programming is massive in our life. We are on autopilot so much more than you think, that we're constantly having this facade answer for us.
It is, it sounds to me like there has not been much change
No, not a
in
lie.
what, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 years since, I don't, because again, it depends on who you talk to, determines whether or not, how long we've been here. But however long we've been here, it does not sound like much has changed in that regard. We might be evolving physically. I believe that there was a point at which we had more teeth, or maybe less. And now, of course, we removed those four wisdom teeth. I don't know if that has inculcated into the DNA yet to where those don't even grow. Psychologically, I'd like to think, but this is part of that. I mean, it's like the mental and the emotional aspects of who we are as men is what it is. What has been your experience in facilitating? Because I know that each man has to do his own work, but you facilitate that process. What is it that you are able to bring to the table that helps them to carry out the work they need to do to become real men, not macho, tough guys, and the UHF or UFC or
UFC,
whatever that is on TV that I turn away. It's like, I can't believe we're doing that again.
yeah. What a great question. I'm speaking from somebody who had a temper when I was a child. I jumped through a window when I was 18 years old.
Whoa.
Head first through a window with a rage. My parents got me in, and that I now take accountability for. That was a trigger. That was my parents triggering a wound in me that activated an animalistic behavior in me that I do not have control over. And my choice and my power to stop myself in a fit of anger. And we've all been there. We see beatings and marital disputes and people cutting us off and yelling and road raging. Our ability to get angry is very, very low. When you have the power to choose over those drivers, sex, food, anger, jealousy, fear, hatred, if you have the power within yourself to choose your response rather than it being automated, that makes you a man. And a lot of the real men that I know have the power to step into vulnerability, to share emotion, to stop themselves from acting and behaving like I did and jumping through a window. So this is not going to help me. They have the power to put the facade down and pull out the trauma and say, Mom and Dad, I'm really hurting. Like, you really hurt me. Like this, I don't know what to do. I'm so hurt.
Yeah.
That repression created anger that had a cascading effect that caused the situation. Stepping up and dealing with hurt and pain and asking for help is one of the hardest things that a man can do. But what a man needs to do if you want to follow this path, and there's lots of ways to the finish line, but one of them is finding the courage, building the courage to have the strength to step into vulnerability and say and do the things you need to say and do to steer your life in the places you want it to go. And that's what men aren't doing.
We're talking with Dave Rossi. He has a book. It's called Alphas Die Early. And I will bring that up here many times. The website, where would you like us to send people besides Amazon? Because I would prefer sending people to your website to find out more about you. And certainly there will be a portal of some sort that they would then be able to get the book.
Yep.
But they may be even to be able to connect with you to maybe get some support.
Yeah. DaveRossiGlobal.com, Dave Rossi Global at TikTok and Instagram. I hope I wanted to make sure I answer that question for you because I think you're looking for real concrete steps to take. And, I don't know if I answered it as directly as you wanted, like step one, and I think step one is you have to somehow get help, read books, and find the strength that it requires to be vulnerable.
Yeah, that's why I like this show. It's my therapy.
Yeah, you need to release blame. You need to stop. If you blame anybody for anything, look, I was in a 17-year abusive relationship with an alcoholic, narcissistic wife that I was in for 17 years. And, I don't blame her. The second I stopped blaming her and forgive her. Forgiveness isn't to forget. I don't talk to her because she's a horrible person, and that's okay. She can be that person and she can live her life, and I have my animosity. But the second I stopped blaming her for my life situation, it took a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability to say, I'm accountable. I put myself there. I have 100% accountability for being there.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped blaming my parents for making me so angry to jump out of a window, right? And it wasn't the first time I had a temper, but I'm the one that had lost control. And so when you stop blaming and I look inward and I say, wait a minute, what's in me that caused this? Let's look inward.
Yeah, that is a profound question that we all have to ask. I'll share something with you, but first I want to share with you listening and watching. This is Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Dave Rossi. We're talking about his book, Alphas Die Early, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I want to address that a little bit in terms of that profound question, because it seems as though we know what the question is. However, we don't really want to know the answer. And again, when I say that we don't want to know the answer, it's the mask on the superficial level that doesn't want to know the answer, because that means that then we have to deal with the real man inside, or I don't know if it's the child inside, the boy inside, that kind of thing. My mother sent me, by the way, I'm so grateful for my mother still being with us. She'll be 92 in September. I'm more excited about it than she is. I'm hoping maybe we can get out to Phoenix to celebrate with her, but she sent me this album. Now she called me and she says, "Hey, I want to send this album to you." At the post office, they wouldn't take it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking record album. I'm in the business. I don't know what record album she'd be sending. Photo album. All right. Yeah. It was a small little photo, and it has all these pictures of me from the first 30 or 40 years of my life. Now, there may only be maybe 60 or 70 pictures in this photo album. There are not that many. It's not a big one. But I flipped through this thing 3 and 4 and 5 times since it's arrived on last Wednesday or Thursday as our conversation. And it elicits in me this thought of, as my book talks about, choices. All of the choices that I made in those times, whether I remember exactly what was going on at that time in that picture or not, that have brought me here, not only here to this new house that my wife and I have bought, but also here to this conversation that you, Dave, and I are having about this. And wondering, because I remember there's a line from a John Denver song that goes, see if I can remember how it goes. Changes somehow frighten me. Still, I have to smile. It turns me on to think of growing old. Now, bear in mind, I heard that song in my teens. And I thought, oh, it's going to be cool. Of course, there was a period of time when I got there where I'm going, this ain't as cool as I thought it was going to be. At the same time, I'm now 66, just turned 66. I'm headed around the sun for my 67th time, my friend. Okay. And I'm glad you're here to join me on that journey. But I wondered back then, well, what kind of a man am I going to be? And will I be just a carbon copy of my father, who wasn't a bad guy, and not bad to be a carbon copy of him, but there's already one of him. Who am I going to be? And you talk in your book, Alphas Die Early, about this new Marvel comic character that we want to become. I don't know. It could happen. Okay. The Omega Man.
Yeah.
What is the Omega Man?
Oddly, I was reading this up. I wanted a title for how to live authentically, how to live with funeral wisdom, how to live with vulnerability and authenticity, how to live without competition and without a facade, and to, as Jung would say, bring the unconscious conscious. And, when I was doing this research, I ran across the Übermensch, which was Nietzsche's exact same character, except Nietzsche's character, the Übermensch, the Superman, as they called it, went to nihilism. The result wasn't something happy, positive, and spiritual. And so a lot of the views that the Omega has is about being sovereign, about self-mastery, about consciousness, about the types of things that Jesus Christ taught, about the things that the Buddha taught, the things that people through history taught. And, you know, the kingdom of heaven is within. And I take that as the kingdom of heaven is your consciousness. It's breaking out of being an animal. It's feeling this urge to cheat, and then have this power to say, no, I don't want my programming to make me do bad choices. And what happens to us is we obfuscate and we curate and we manufacture reality to match our belief structure. And it is not easy having to go through all this pain, but it is worth it to fight off the animal side of us. And Nietzsche called it I think we went over this last time, a rope stretched across a ravine. On one side is the beast, and one side is God. And you traverse this ravine, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking about animal behavior and Darwin and all this stuff, and I'm talking about being enlightened and having, you know, as Dr. David Hawkins would say, higher levels of consciousness. And you got to cross the rope. And Nietzsche talked about this in the 1850s, right?
Yeah.
From the beast to God. Like, you got to beat the beast. And that's where people fail. And that's where I've spent a lot of my time, is trying to create an Omega Man and a code that helps me live authentically by keep on pausing between my reactions and stopping and asking myself, who is acting next? The beast or the enlightened one? What choice do I want to make to propagate my life, to have it go forward rather than backwards? And to set aside fear and to set aside anger is to be an Omega, and to control your emotions and choose with the power of choice rather than emotions. And if you hide your emotions, you're never going to be able to beat them, because if you hide them, they have so much power you can't even address them.
Yeah. Because if you hide them, they start to inflate.
Yeah.
And eventually they explode. Yeah. And they pour out of you in ways that you may not be able to control.
Autoimmune diseases, you know, are
that's absolutely one of those ways.
Yeah, and you know, weight gain, immune system compromise, lack of sleep, you know, anger, you know, and you know, as Jung said, and I love Jung because he's such a deep thinker. He was Freud's assistant until they branched off on the origin of these thoughts. There's no coming to consciousness without pain. And to make the unconscious conscious is making the beast become God. And that is making the unconscious, the pain, the wounds, the animal drivers, the factors that make us do things, that repress emotion. The only reason why we repress emotions is because it's painful if we don't. And then we find ways to blame and to shame and to hold these emotions down, and techniques to keep it repressed. And because we're not strong enough to be able to let this emotion out, to then grab this unconscious emotion and make it conscious and say, this hurts. Okay, so now what do I do with it? I need to put it here and make a choice. What is best, not based on the pain and not based on the emotion, but based on what I want to do. And that's the Omega.
I hope you've thought of this, because this just came to me. The Omega Man. And this is what the Omega Man looks like physically. All right. At least as far as its uniform. Might have a cape. Could have a mask, although I would say not. But emblazoned on his chest is a giant, well, OM. Now, the funny thing about that is a wonderful place to start with Om.
Yeah.
Om.
Yeah.
And it takes us back to what you were referring to, and I want to get into as we continue here, about the spiritual aspects.
Yeah.
I've often asked the question of my guests about what do you think the condition of the soul of our country is? I'm not asking that question here.
Mm.
I'm going to ask you, what do you think in a general sense, because every man is different in this country, and I'm not sure how it breaks down. There's supposedly 330 million people, and supposedly maybe half of those, all right? What do you think that the overall soul condition of the male of the species here in America, in the United States, is based upon what's been happening over the decades? All right. And is this something that other countries' males are also beginning to suffer from?
Well, there's nothing wrong with men, and there's nothing wrong with our souls. The state of our souls is a vibrational energy that is like the sun hiding behind clouds. And I think what you're asking is, what's the status of the sun? But I think what you're really asking is how much light is getting through the clouds. And, I think the state of our souls peering through our clouds is in a perilous state. There is a tussle between a lot of different views. What's your favorite food, Dr. D?
Oh my God. My favorite food. Oh, okay. I'm going to say a perfectly seared ahi tuna.
Wrong. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. I hate you. Don't vote for him. You're on the wrong side. I mean, I use color often because your favorite food is kind of programmed. You didn't really choose that favorite food. There's something about that food. It's a time in your life when you're a child or growing up, or maybe you had a lot of steak that you love fish, or maybe you love fish and so you love it. Doesn't matter. Something about you and there's not a DNA for my favorite food is a perfectly cooked ahi steak, right? This is a program that your brain says when we interpret these flavors, we like this, and a reward center goes off, and so we hate each other for having these programs. And so the fight in our country right now is for ideology.
Yeah.
And, ideology changes based on the state of our economy and the state of our culture. And so what's good one decade may not be so good the next decade. And these are ideologies that talk about governing mass people. And I think that the body, the programming, the indoctrination, the brainwashing, the gaslighting, and I don't even mean those in negative ways. I consider gaslighting more adult programming compared to child programming. And our brain does not have a spam filter. And I don't want to say anything bad about the Trump and the MAGA position at all, because I understand and respect when people think that. I don't believe that ideology. But if I believed everything that they told me, I probably would fall into that ideology.
Sure.
But the things that they say objectively are a little off. So I don't know that I want to believe the ideology if it doesn't match the condition. And so I think the state of our country is a lot of people on a programming side, on a gaslighting side, believing things that indoctrinate us into very staunch beliefs. And these beliefs don't often help us. And I think the state is bad. I think it's tumultuous. I think it's immature. I think it's bringing the worst out in people. I think that the fighting and the disrespect for each other, to hate someone for loving ahi tuna steaks is just as idiotic to me as hating somebody over how to manage taxes or how to govern people who are less fortunate or how to deal with people who take advantage of the system. All these things need to be dealt with. Yeah. And so I just think that it's a lack of open-mindedness and open-heartedness, and and the opposite of the stubbornness. There's a lot of stubbornness in our society right now.
David Rossi is my guest. His book "Alphas Die Early" is the title, and we are going to encourage you, so we can give out that web address. It is, ladies and gentlemen, davidrossiglobal.com. Will be linked to that website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm going to share something with you that I may have shared before, but my brother and I had this conversation following my eldest sister's memorial back at the end of March, or actually it was probably the first part of April. of 2022. I think that's right, because my father passed away the following year. Anyway, this conversation was sort of spurred on by something that my elder sister, who I'm very close to, said to me on the phone before I flew out there. She says, I can't believe how different you two are, the brothers, and we're on opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
So when I sat down with him that evening, and it ran until 1 o'clock and my 1 a.m., and my mother comes out of the bedroom and says, boys, it's 1 a.m. And she still referred to us as boys, and we're in our 60s. I love that. Anyway, when the conversation started, the first thing I said to myself was, no matter where this conversation goes, this is my brother. He will always be my brother. I will always have pride for him and the accomplishments he's made, for the fact that he took my parents on a vacation to China. He sent pictures of them on the Great Wall.
Wow.
He has every right to believe and support and what have you, whoever and whatever and so forth, and so do I. So neither of us are right or wrong. We just have different views. Now, we got to the end of that conversation. We wrapped it up. We came to the agreement on 3 issues or challenges that needed to be addressed. Maybe not how, but the items. On top of the fact that we come from the same parents, we grew up in the same house, we had a similar childhoods, and of course, after a while, we kind of went our own ways. But we're still, and as to our conversation as we started this program about things that need the DIYs around here, we're on the phone. He lives in Vietnam now, but we're on the phone, and he is helping me to secure this project and get what needs to be done so it's safe, and on and on and on. He's there for me, as I, in the best ways that I can be, am there for him. Regardless, I don't know, maybe even because of these differences. I mean, would you like to live in a world where all the trees were exactly the same, David?
Oh, let's hate the trees for being the same too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I made that commitment, and I would love for people to start to make the same commitment that we're all here together. I mean, the universal mind, and wasn't it Jung who made the comment that there is only one mind in the universe? And
yeah, there's part of it. There's even quantum physics catching up with some of this spiritual beliefs on collective consciousness. Yeah. Yeah.
So when we have conversations with one another and we disagree, we're disagreeing with ourselves, in a manner of speaking, on that level, on that higher level of the one mind, because all of that is part of the same mind. It's just different compartments, if you will.
Well, the body gets in the way of accessing that mind. So everyone's ability to understand the collective consciousness is, again, the body's being put in front of the soul. The soul is inside of us, and our body, our programming. Now, your brother and you have different views, likely because of the way you were raised. You may have had an ideology, and he, to be a standout male in his burrow, had to be a different ideology, or he would not stand out or be able to be competitive with the other male in his burrow. So he adopted an ideology opposite of yours for some kind of programming.
Yeah.
And no, he didn't have his fanfare. He didn't choose that. He didn't choose that.
That's interesting too.
There's no part of him that chose that ideology.
He didn't choose it. He didn't choose it. But yet, then I have the question to you, and this kind of goes to my book choices, 5 Steps for Life.
Right.
Then in a manner of speaking, my book is sort of irrelevant because we aren't really making choices. It's all based upon our programming of
sorts. You need to make choices beyond your programming.
Okay.
Look, if I was your brother, I would say, look, based on my knowledge, I currently have this ideology, but I don't know if it's right. I mean, right now what I believe, and right now what I've learned, instead of telling you that my view is right, why don't you tell me why yours is right, and maybe I can learn something, and maybe I might change my view, because instead of forcing you to believe what I believe, I want to grow my intelligence, and I want to search for objective reality and truth. And then maybe I might even change my mind because I have a different set of facts. Yeah. And then I can make a choice what I want to believe based on good data.
Yeah.
It goes to a story. There was in a book, a guy goes out of his house and he sees a snake it's dark at night and he sees a snake and he freaks out and he runs back in the house. And the next day he got a rake to go out there to go, get rid of the snake. And it's a garden hose because it was light out. So he made a decision based on bad data. You change the perspective and the data changes, and then you don't need a rake. You just got to put the hose away. Yeah. Right. And that's we're running around making choices and we're making choices on what to believe based on incomplete or bad data. And the more open your heart is, the more open your mind is, the more you read, the more you converse, the more you talk, the more you collaborate, the more you pull out your emotions and set them aside, and you become clean and honest and authentic without the body and the programming getting in your way. You can be open-minded and learn and modify your beliefs by choice based on better data.
So that then reinforces the analogy that I use of an event taking place in the middle of a circle, and we stepping on the points of the circle and walking around the circle, increasing, if you will, the data, the perspective of that event, whether it be a car wreck, whether it be a political party or person, whether it be whatever it is, put whatever you want in there. If you do that, because we have the knee-jerk reaction as human beings, obviously within the media, it's if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
What if it isn't bleeding? I mean, what if we made this knee-jerk reaction that, oh my God, it's bleeding, but we haven't gotten all the information. We're basing it on a snapshot from the very beginning. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to do on this program, for example, is to help people to work through these false perceptions or incomplete perceptions, or perceptions, as you've put it, that are devoid of complete information, or at least more information than we have now. Because I don't know that we can really have complete, but at least we could stop this business. I mean, I've shared this on other programs where on 9/11, I get a phone call 5:30 in the morning in Phoenix. Turn on the TV. You got to see what's going on. I said, what are you talking about? No, turn on the TV. I turned on the TV. The news was on. There you saw the two towers. You saw the smoke coming out. Honestly, the first thought out of my head was, my God, they're getting good at CGI. Wow.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what we've been going through the last 10 or 11 years with this particular gentleman is that I can't trust a word that comes out of his mouth anymore. I mean, he has been found to have been providing misinformation over and over and over again. And it goes back and forth and back and forth. And it's like, all right, then I'm not going to listen anymore. Stop listening. So you don't even have to process and say, oh, he's lying or he's telling the truth. And it's like, wait until the dust settles. Wait until you get more information from a variety of sources, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
No. But the ego, this persona that we make that protects our traumas and wounds, it obscures reality. It likes stability. It lives on predictive outcomes. Your brain computates what's going to happen next based on the data in its mind. If I ask you to solve a calculus equation, you may not be able to solve it because you just don't have the knowledge to do the algebra to crunch the numbers of a calculus equation, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is just, your brain having knowledge to be able to do something, and your body computates constantly on how to save its life without you knowing. And its computations are detailed and they're below your conscious level. You don't always know what this computation is in your brain to look for survival and safety. And one of the automated responses is it likes predictive behavior and it likes to keep a closed mind because it survives on that. And what makes you, again, and I love the title of your book, what makes you powerful is to always question what you think you know, because your brain legitimately is trying to deceive you.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a psychology study. It will actually change what your eyes see and your ears hear. It will lie to you it tells you you're right. Look, everything everybody did wrong, your brain at one point said, that's okay, you can do this.
Yeah.
My brain said, jump to that window. This is a great way out. You're going to really get your parents' attention if you do that. You're justified.
Yeah.
I was justified, and my brain said, good job, right?
Yeah.
What a low point in my life, and what a low point it must have been in my parents' life to
Yeah.
see the child dive through a glass window, a story off the ground, you know? But my brain told me this is acceptable. And so when you question what you think you're certain about, you begin to become a lot more open-minded, and life becomes a lot easier, and you become more educated, and you have more data, and you're colored in the circle, and you're getting a bigger picture of the circle than just a dot in the middle and a ring around the. You're beginning to see the shape of a real circle.
It is better to begin in doubt and end in certainty than to begin in certainty and end in doubt.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage. Again, it takes, you have to beat the body or the beast, as Nietzsche would say, to let go of tightly held certainties, to let go of them, to question, wait a minute, what else is out there? And doubt certainty, and then go right back and learn to go back to certainty on the other end. It just takes a lot of courage.
A couple of things along those lines. My sister and I were having, my elder sister, at one Thanksgiving years ago, we were standing in the wrong place in the kitchen where my mother was making dinner, and we were having this conversation, and she was challenging my, in essence, my salvation, my faith, and so forth. And I said, well, the problem, Jeanette, is that my beliefs of yesterday are not my beliefs of today, or not my beliefs of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I'm still alive and experiencing and meeting new people and having conversations and so forth. And to add to that, and this, I got to tell you, I'm glad I remember this because it was so profound. I was interviewing a Christian musician back in the probably early 90s. His name was John Fisher. I hope he's still alive. He's also an author. I have a stack of his articles from a magazine that I used to get. And we were chatting in the interview, and he says because he had moved to New England, and he grew up in the Jesus movement of the 60s and 70s in California. But there he was. He says, I was sitting in my writer's garret, looking out the window in the fall at the leaves turning and falling off the trees. And the thought occurred to me, is what I believe, what I've been told to believe, or what I believe? Now, here's the paradox as I see it, and I hope that you can open this up and clarify. I don't know how we can identify those beliefs that we have, that we say, that's mine. And I could give you an example of how I did that. Or that, oh, well, that's what I was taught in catechism or Sunday school or in civics class, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's easy answer. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
It doesn't matter.
No, I'll tell you why. Look, and I love the way you open this about you change every day and your beliefs change every day. And, they should, because when you feel pain, and there's a Epictetus quote, it's not events that make you angry, it's your belief in them that does. This became the backbone of Dr. Albert Ellis's cognitive behavioral therapy, in that I'm not angry that my wife left the towel on the floor. I'm angry because I believe that she shouldn't. And yet I say, why did you leave this towel on the floor? You leave it on the floor every day. Well, why do I believe that she shouldn't do this when she does it every day? It's an irrational belief that I have that then creates anger. If I expect the towel to be on the ground, then I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah.
Or there might be some other belief. So it's the pain that we feel in life that is an invitation to take inventory of what we believe. So when I see the towel on the floor and I go, okay, I believe it shouldn't happen. Well, that's a silly belief. It just did. Yeah. I believe that she did it to hurt me. Well, of course, that's silly. She didn't do it to hurt me. She probably got busy like she does every morning. She gets scattered, and I love her to death. And she's probably running out to make some breakfast or do something for somebody. I'm going to pick it up. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to modify my beliefs. But it was the pain of an old belief that created an emotion that was anger. And that's when you can't repress that emotion. You got to bring it up and say, what do I believe that's making me feel angry? The brain works with stimulus and response.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a stimulus, which is a towels on the floor. And then I get to decide what that means. And then the emotion comes out based on what I think it is and my experiences and my beliefs. And then the anger comes out. Okay, so now I'm angry. Yeah. I didn't choose anger. Yeah. The data in my brain chose anger.
Yeah.
And I can treat it.
Yeah. And I'm not starting now to throw my wife under the bus. Okay. I'm going to share very briefly. My wife is not the type of person who really likes to clean up. Let's say she's a chef in a high-end restaurant.
Right.
Chef does not put the dishes in the dishwasher, does not clean the counters. All right. So when we're in there cooking and she makes a mess, as cooks tend to do, because, they're cooking, they're focused on what they're making, right?
Right.
When we're done, I come back behind her and I start cleaning up. Now, I'm not upset, or matter of fact, you know what? I actually enjoy doing that. I really do. Because I get to, make sure everything is back where it's supposed to be, or in the dishwasher, and the counters are wiped off and the stove is, and so on and so forth. And then we have a nice clean area to make the next meal and so on. I enjoy doing that. And so it's not even a criticism of her. That's just the way she is. And I accept her that way.
Yeah. And you don't blame. You're not blaming her.
I'm not blaming. No, there's no victim here. There's participants in a process that has been going on for almost 30 years. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm going to pause here to remind you who are watching and listening. This is Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with David Rossi, and we're talking about his book, which is Alphas Die Early, here on Tell Me Your Story. David, I am fascinated by all of this stuff. This is so cool. We could go on for hours. We can't, because we both have other prior engagements coming up here shortly. So first of all, I want to thank you once again for being on the program, for sharing from your perspective and helping us, men especially, but I hope also women who are listening, to understand that, as I wrote in my song back in 2000, with the help of a woman who, I'll name her, Emily Yurchison, who has this program called Odyssey of Song, where she helps people who come to her to write their song where they are at that time. I'm a good man. I'm doing the best I can. Yeah. That is the title of my song. And I know that you're doing the same thing. At my father's memorial, I said, and Dad could sing this song too. And I hope that more men will be able to recognize that you are a good man. You're just doing the best you can.
Yeah. And accept people for where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thank you so much once again. Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you those 3 questions I asked you the last time you were on the program, because sometimes they change. All right. And as I look here, I'm going to go ahead and pop those 3 questions in. The first is, who is Dave Rossi?
I am me. I am who I am. I am what I am.
Sounds a little Dr. Seussish.
But it's a Bible quote. It's a Moses quote.
It is also a Bible quote. Yes.
Yeah. I want to be more than my programming, and I am what I am. What comes out, not because it's curated or pretense or manufactured. It's going to be raw. It's going to be authentic. And it's going to be me.
What gets you up in the morning?
Hope.
And finally, what was your best day?
Today.
David, thank you again. I really appreciate it. I hope we can have you back again to talk more about this, because obviously there's more to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about, yeah.
To work through. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast. Love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy, because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. To my brother, Michael, welcome to fatherhood, my friend. And to my dear friend, Zorro, aho, aho.